Ladies and gentle gamers, welcome to Hypixel SkyBlock. In today's video, we are going to go over basically an introduction to the game, so just kind of introduce you guys to what the end game of different grinds looks like, and we're going to explain a couple of the mechanics that go on throughout the game, because this video is made mainly for beginners, or if you're debating on whether or not to start playing the game, to kind of explain some of the mechanics that go on. So if you guys enjoy, please make sure to drop a like and subscribe, because I will be making more guides that go further in depth on different parts of the game. So also comment down below which things you would like me to make guides on. Without further ado, let's jump into it. A lot of the mechanics in SkyBlock are vanilla Minecraft mechanics, but they do also add a ton of things that aren't in the base game. The first of which is different islands that you can grind different things on. If we look in our menu and go to the fast travel section, you can see all of the different islands that are in the game right now. There's your private island, which is where you're going to be doing most of your minion work. All of your minions will be on your private island, and so you'll be making your passive money from here. You can build whatever you want here as well, so you can definitely make it look better than I've made mine look. Mine's pretty ugly, I know, but there's some people out there with really insane builds on their private islands. If we go out to the hub island, this is kind of the base area for everyone. You can do most of the early game stuff here, and just the start of every single grind, pretty much it begins here. There's the bank, the auction house, and the bazaar where you keep all of your money at and trade all of your money away. Then there's the farming areas and a couple of combat areas as well, which is the castle over here where you can fight wolves, and the crypts over here where you can fight zombies. And there's also this section right here with all these trees where you can forage, as well as the mining section on the back end of the island where you can mine. But you're probably wondering, what is the goal of SkyBlock? That is what a lot of people wonder when they're first starting. What should my goal be? And the reality is, this is a MMORPG, which is a massive multiplayer online role-playing game. So basically, you can do whatever you want, and there's a lot of options. If we look in our SkyBlock menu and go to skills, you can see most of the paths that you'll go along are related to the different skills in the game. You get XP for these skills for grinding out these different types of grinds. For doing combat things, you get combat XP. For farming, you get farming XP. Then there's fishing, mining, foraging, enchanting, alchemy, dungeoneering, social, taming, rune crafting, and carpentry. Now, most of these bottom ones aren't very important. You'll get your taming XP passively and your carpentry XP passively. Enchanting and alchemy you do have to focus on for a little bit, but they're not really that important either. Dungeoneering is basically an add-on to the combat skill, which we'll talk about later. But basically, you'll choose one of these three skills, which is combat, farming, or mining. Some people choose fishing, but fishing isn't really like a main skill for most people. But generally, you'll start out on one of these three skills. You'll grind that out quite a bit and then maybe start on one of the other one. If you choose combat as your grind that you're wanting to focus on for the foreseeable future, generally the goal is to get yourself an Estrella or a Hyperion, something along those lines that is really powerful and really expensive. And the things that you can do with combat to get to this point, there are a couple of combat related things, but to get to Estrella, you're generally going to want to get into dungeoneering. Once you hit Catacombs level 24 from grinding dungeons, you will be able to go into F7, which is the hardest normal floor that you can play, and you'll have a chance to drop a Necron's Handle, which is used to craft the Estrella or the Hyperion. But if you don't know what dungeons are, basically it is a 5-player game mode where you'll have 4 other teammates besides yourself, so 5 players in total. You'll go into dungeon rooms, you'll clear them out, and then you'll have a boss fight afterwards, and depending on how well you cleared and how many deaths you had and things like that, you can get some really cool drops. But besides the catacombs, there are a few other things you can do with combat, one of which is slayers. So you can go down into the basement of the bartender's room here and talk to Maddox. You can see there are currently 6 different slayers in the game, between Revenants, Tarantulas, Svens, Void Glooms, Riftstalkers, and Inferno, aka zombies, spiders, wolves, endermen, vampires, and blazes. So they do scale in difficulty as you go along. The Riftstalker is only inside of the Rift, which we'll talk about later. But besides Slayers and Dungeons, there is one more option for late game grinding in combat, which is Kudra. Kudra is a 4-man boss fight where you'll go up to the Kudra Gatekeeper and you'll choose a different tier of boss. You will have to have a key to be able to open the chest at the end, but the chest at the end can have things that value up to like 300 million coins, or they can be worth less than the key is, which is about 5 million. But for most people, combat is the most enjoyable skill. It is the most developed skill by far, and that's generally the route that people will focus on, is getting to that Hyperion so that they can play in Master Mode dungeons, which is even harder than the normal dungeon. But besides combat, there's also farming, which consists of going to the garden. The garden is an island you'll unlock once you hit level 5 in your skyblock level, which your skyblock level levels based on different things that you do. Pretty much anything in the game as far as XP goes is going to give you some skyblock XP in some way or another, from getting your skill levels to unlocking new collections, even to finding fairy souls around the island. But farming is pretty straightforward. You farm crops along these different gardens that you build, and then occasionally visitors will show up on your island with different items for you. You fill out their offers and get a bunch of farming XP as well as garden XP plus some other goodies depending on the visitor. And also, as you farm, different pests will show up, such as this earthworm or this mosquito over here that will fly around and decrease your fortune. So you got to go and clear these out every now and then to make sure your fortune isn't decreased by too much. You can use your vacuums to catch them and then go back to farming. But that's the basis of farming. You can farm different crops that make different amounts of money. Sometimes bizarre prices change based on updates, but generally melons is going to be the best. The next skill is fishing, which fishing has pretty much an update on every single island. On most islands, there's a body of water somewhere where you can catch different types of sea creatures, which is a little bit different from base Minecraft. Normally in vanilla Minecraft, you can only catch normal fish and things like that, but in Skyblock, you can catch different sea creatures. For example, the catfish, which is an actual cat. But water isn't the only place you can fish. Once you unlock the Crimson Isle at Combat 22, you can actually get your hands on a Hellfire Rod or some other type of lava rod and start fishing for sea creatures here in the lava. You do have to have fishing level 27 to be able to catch these new powerful mobs that have a lot more health than the other ones do, but this is where fishing makes the most money. There's also a specific type of fishing called trophy fishing, where basically you try to meet certain conditions like fishing at a certain location or with a certain amount of mana, where you can catch specific types of trophy fish, and they have a chance to be from bronze to diamond rarity. There is bronze, silver, gold, and diamond rarities, with diamond being the best one to get, and depending on which rarities you've caught will depend on what type of goods you can get for them from Odger. Now, before we talk about mining, which is the last truly developed skill, there are a couple other skills that we can talk about. Foraging is not really developed yet. It basically consists of gasp chopping down trees, but at the moment it hasn't received an update in like 3 to 4 years, so it's supposed to be getting one pretty soon, and when that update does come out, I will make videos on it for sure. But there's also enchanting, which consists of doing experiments on your private island. So if we go back to our private island here, we can go over to our experimentation table right here, or we can do different mini games like the chronometron, which consists of basically Simon Says, where we're going to hit the different blocks in the same order that it told us to, and after we get to a certain number we get a big reward, which is a ton of enchanting experience. So you want to make sure to do this at least until you're enchanting level 60. Afterwards, it's still worth it to do it because you can get really expensive enchants out of it. There are some new enchants in the Hypixel SkyBlock that aren't in vanilla Minecraft, so depending on what your grind is, there will be enchants for it, almost guaranteed. There's specific enchants for farming, for mining, for fishing that aren't in the base game, and of course there's plenty of them for combat as well. If you're wondering how I'm getting these solvers, this is from Badlion Client right here. So if you do plan to play Skyblock, or you're already playing Skyblock and you don't have Badlion Client, I highly recommend getting it. It's a one download, tons of mods type of client, and it really helps out with all of these different types of grinds. There's different solvers, especially for dungeons, that make things way easier than just playing the base game, so I highly recommend downloading it. But now let's talk about mining. Mining is probably the second most developed skill in the game, I would say. It has had about 3 major updates in the last few years, with the main focus being on different tools and armor for mining, as well as new unique blocks that aren't in the vanilla version of the game. So this is a drill that I'm holding right now, the Auspicious Titanium Drill 655. This is the second best drill in the game. It gets to the point where you are upgrading things for insane amounts of money. And so if you don't actually grind with these items, it's not worth to upgrade them. But mining is a lot of fun. There are 3 different places that you can really mine. The first of which is the Dwarven Mines right here, where you can grind out different blocks like this. These green blocks are mithril. These white blocks are titanium. But this is kind of the early game place to mine. The late game place is actually in the Glaciate Dwarven Base Camp. These are the Glaciate tunnels where you can grind new blocks like Glaciate right here, or Umber right here, or Tungsten here, as well as the other blocks that are added in other locations like these crystals right here. This is Sapphire, there is Amber. I believe at the moment there are 12 different types of gemstones which give different stats on different types of armor, but mining is one of the best ways to make money in the game. If you have a really good setup, you can make like 50 million coins an hour grinding Peridot, or at least you could at one point. I'm not sure how good it is now, but mining is pretty much always the best consistent money making method in the game. So what a lot of people will do is, if you're planning on playing different parts of the game, they'll start off with mining, make a ton of money, and then be able to boost themselves further into the progression of different skills like combat or farming, because they've spent so much time mining, they have so much money to spend on those other things, which is definitely a good way to do it. I do recommend doing it that way if you have the patience to mine, but mining can be boring sometimes, so if you don't really have the patience for it, there is another section of the game that you can play called the Rift, which we talked about a little bit earlier. Basically, if we go to the hub and we look back past the mountain here, there is the Wizard's Tower right here. And at the top of the Wizard's Tower, you can go inside, and there is a portal to the Rift that you will unlock at, I believe it's SkyBlock level 12. But I made a ton of guides on how to get through the Rift, and if you've already played through the Rift, you can always check out Swavy's guides on how to make money inside of it. So I highly recommend doing that. So I didn't really answer the question, what should your goal be? And the truth is, I can't answer that. That is a question that you alone can answer, and it really depends on how much time you're willing to put into the game. So I usually recommend putting a small goal to start with for maybe different types of skills. So start off with a small goal for mining, like getting Heart of the Mountain level 3, or for the garden, like getting to garden level 5, or for combat, like getting to Rev Slayer level 7, and just see what you enjoy about different types of skills and what you want to grind the most. And then after you've figured out what you like the most, you can set a bigger goal, like getting Hyperion or a 655 drill, or maybe getting up to farming level 50. But if you plan to go for everything like I have for skyblock levels and things like that, that's been my main focus on this profile, be ready to put a lot of time in the game. Is going to take a very long time. For example, at the moment, you can do /PT to see your playtime. I have 2,846 hours in this game, and I still am like 20 levels off of max level. And those last 20 levels are going to take me hundreds, if not thousands of hours to achieve. I just want you guys to know what you're getting into before you jump in and get bored halfway through. It is completely fine not to set a goal as huge as I have. The fact is, this game is made for anyone with any amount of time to spend on it. You don't have to go for these huge crazy numbers, being #1 in potatoes or anything like that. You can spend as much time as you want doing whatever you want. But if you have any questions whatsoever, feel free to leave a comment. I read every single comment and I do my best to answer every single question. But if it's something about the game as well, always know that you can type /wiki into the game chat. You can click here to visit the official wiki. You can then type whatever you want inside of here, like for example, we can go to dungeons, and you can see all of the different types of things for dungeons, get a ton of info on everything, whatever you need to know. It should be here, but if you can't find it, feel free to leave a comment or join the Discord linked in the description. But I hope you enjoy your grind, and I'll catch you in the next one. Have an amazing rest of your day, and God bless.